7. We can do this. Ignore that it says Unit 4. This used to be Unit 4. I have moved it because I think you need this as Unit 2. So ignore that. Anyways, we are going to talk about interest groups and political action committees, which is all about money, 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 money. Okay. What is an interest group? An interest group is exactly what you think it is, right? It's a group of people who share the same interests. Mind-blowing. But the difference is that they're seeking to influence government. So they're trying to pass legislation, they're influencing congressmen, stuff like that. They usually advocate for certain issues. James Madison called them factions, and he said they were bad for the country. Usually, an interest group begins as a movement. So people want their voices heard, they join with like-minded individuals, and then boom, an interest group is created. Now, there are lots of different types: economic, ideological, single issue, public interest, foreign policy, or government itself. Some of them are going to overlap. So if I'm looking at economic, this could be businesses, this could be trade, so like chambers of commerce or like businesses with similar interests will join together. This could be workers' associations or like unions. Economic interest groups can overlap a lot. You can have government interest groups, so government employees, like the National Education Association, the National Governors Association, which governors of states can be a part of. You have ideological interest groups, which are political views, so like Marxists or socialists or communists, or people who want to support civil liberties, nuclear disarmament, etc. Those are your ideologicals. I believe in this because it's a political belief. Single issue, those are people who are adamant about one specific position, whether that's right or left, and they're unwilling to compromise in that position. So the NRA is a good example. They're very pro-Second Amendment. You have Emily's List versus the Right to Life. Both of those are political action committees. And sometimes political action committees can be interest groups, right? They are supporting or not supporting abortion. Public interest groups are usually interest groups that are for like public interest or for the common good. So we're reforming certain political or government functions to better the process. So Common Cause is reforming the electoral process. Okay. I'm going through these real fast. Foreign policy interest groups are interest groups whether for or against certain foreign policies. So like the American Israeli Political Action Committee is all about American and Israeli policies. Anything that America does that benefits or doesn't benefit Israel, and how they're going to come together and kind of how can I influence the U.S. to vote a certain way on something. So there are a bunch of techniques that interest groups use to push their ideas into the political sphere and to try and influence people to vote one way or the other, whether it's us as the people or congressmen themselves. A way to do that is like mass mailing. So if you've ever gotten those political mailers in your mail, that's an example. Litigation, so using the court system, so suing certain corporations or suing over laws. So like a good example is SB 8, which is the new restriction of abortion in Texas. That law went into effect like a year ago, I think. So it's actually under review in the federal courts right now, whether it's legal or not. That's litigation, using the court system to advance your beliefs. Lobbying, the other word that's in yellow, just means you are going to congressmen and you're trying to convince them to vote or convince them to write legislation in your favor. You're basically just like bugging people. What are lobbyists? So lobbyists are employees of an association or an organization that are trying to influence policy decisions. They're bugging congressmen to try and get them to vote one way or the other. So we have political action committees. Now, political action committees, like I said, it's the political part of an interest group. So not only am I getting together with like-minded people, but now I'm furthering a political action. They're raising money for candidates or political parties. The number of them increased after the Campaign Reform Act of 1974 because the Campaign Reform Act limited how much I as an individual can give to a candidate. And now political action committees, after this, could give as much as they wanted to. They're about to be limited, though. So I talked a little bit about soft money in day 6's notes. So you get hard money and soft money. After we start to limit campaign contributions individually, we start to see hard money and soft money, the divide of those definitions. So hard money is money made directly to the candidate. I'm writing a check to Joe Biden. That's hard money. It's given right to him. He can do with it what he wants. Soft money is money not given to a candidate, but is spent to help that candidate. So I'm not writing a check to Joe Biden, but maybe I'm writing a check to a political action committee that's going to run an attack ad against Donald Trump. That's soft money, right? I'm not necessarily writing it to Donald Trump or to Joe Biden, but I'm writing or spending money in their name to help them get elected. There are no legal limits on soft money. You can spend as much soft money as you want. Hard money does have limitations. So, what are those limitations? For PACs, it's about $5,000 per election, which means it's about $10,000 for each election cycle. Because remember, there are 2 elections in an election cycle, the primary and the general election. Soft money, like I said, there are no limitations. So PACs can spend as much of their own money as they want, running ads, creating flyers, mass mailing, etc. Now, when you think about the effectiveness, and that number, that 2,400, is actually higher now because of inflation and stuff. It's about 3,000 now. But if I'm limiting, the amount of hard money I can give, PACs can spend as much soft money. So I would rather donate to a PAC than donate to the candidate himself because PACs can spend as much money running ads, creating flyers, all of that stuff. Now, super PACs, are something that it's like a loophole that was created, and they can accept unlimited contributions and spend unlimited amounts, but they cannot directly donate to federal candidates. So a PAC can donate to a candidate, a super PAC cannot, but they can spend as much money as they want. These are the other 2 groups that will influence elections. 527 groups are tax exempt, and they have to disclose donors. So if I donate to a 527, my name goes on a special list that gets published. 501c4 groups do not have to donate or do not have to disclose their donors. And as long as 51% of their money goes to something outside of political activities, they can exist. That's what classifies them as a 501c4. This is what we call dark money because that money is like hidden from us and we can't really see it because those donors don't have to they're not disclosed. They don't have to go on a list to be published. Now, when we talk about campaign finance reform, these are 2 big things that get passed. So in 1976, you get a Supreme Court case which upholds a federal law which sets limits on campaign contributions. So Buckley versus Vallejo basically says, spending money is constitutionally protected free speech. There is a limit to how much you can spend. The McCain-Feingold Act bans soft money contributions by political committees and prohibits corporations and labor unions from spending money, which gets overturned later on in the 2000s. So Citizens United versus the FEC, they overruled that and basically said free speech, just like in Buckley, your free speech protects your spending money, like your spending speech. And corporations and unions now are classified as people. So they have free speech, which means that they have spending speech. So after Citizens United, corporations and unions can spend unlimited amounts of money on political activities as long as they're not doing it with a certain person or certain party in mind. So usually you're going to see them donate to policies or to ideas, more to those single issue groups. And that is Unit 2. Woo! We are done. See you guys for Unit 3.